So often we get caught up in the buying process. We're excited to get that pre-approval letter in place, and now we're out, we're looking at houses, and we find something that we like. So now what? What are the next steps, and what do you need to be prepared to write an offer? Today I'm going to cover just that. Hi, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and RE/MAX Professionals here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and my team and I sell a ton of houses every year and represent a ton of buyers. So we know what to do when it comes to buying a home. So in all honesty, where we on our team like to start the process is with a buyer consult. But not everything works according to plan always, and I get it. A lot of people too are just very excited to get out and looking at houses, but getting the information when you need it is very important. And I also think proper preparation can really limit future heartache. So while it might seem boring to discuss some of these things up front that you're going to need for an offer even before starting to look for properties, it's good to have them in mind. And honestly, if you want, just reach out. We have a simple checklist of all the items we need from you to write an offer so that you can start working through that sooner rather than later. You never want to be behind the 8 ball, because a lot of the time, especially in Winnipeg, property moves quickly here. If you're seeing something today that's nice, the odds are somebody else is too. So you want to be prepared to act quickly. So without further ado, to make your home offer process as seamless as possible, here are some items that you want to consider before sitting down. Number one, and I know this is boring and maybe a little bit alarmist, but just know that when you are signing an offer, this is a binding contract. What you are signing is committing to somebody else to give them a certain price with certain terms on a certain date. As a result, you're going to want to read all of the fine print. So the first thing we're going to need for you to do is to set aside a good hour at least of time to review the offer contract itself. You don't have to do this every contract. We're not talking about going through the fine print every single time, because a lot of the form is a prescribed form that we use again and again. What changes are the details for the house and what we're offering. But the initial time, you do want to read through every single detail of that contract and make sure you understand it. Step 2, you are going to want to prepare the documents that you need to write your offer. So to write an offer, just be prepared to have the following with you: a form of government issued photo identification. If you don't have that, there are things we can do. There's a 2-step process that we can use to verify your identity, but it is definitely easier if you have government issued photo identification. You'll also want to have a deposit check with you. We present a deposit with our offer. The amount of this deposit depends really on the house you're offering on, the level of competition. There's no prescribed or preset amount. It does depend on situation, and we can advise on that. So don't worry, we can also prep you in advance of what we think these amounts should be, what a realistic deposit is based on what you're looking at. So we can always prep you on this. Just a note though, because it does catch some by surprise, is if your offer is accepted, that check will be deposited typically next business day. The rule is within 24 hours unless we provide some kind of provision within the contract, giving a bit of additional time, but we're not talking like an extended period of time. We're talking usually between 24 and 72 hours to get those funds to the seller. And again, we're going to advise on just how long or what kind of delay is realistic given the circumstance. And number 3 of documents you're going to want to have prepared is your pre-approval letter. We likely already have this on file because we obtain these when we start looking at homes, but if we don't have it yet, please be sure to send us a copy so that we have your lender's contact information, because the second your offer is accepted, we are sending that paperwork to the lender ASAP, as well as some additional items they need to get that approval process started so that they can get you that commitment letter in time. Number 3, and it does relate to the last point here, that you will have had that conversation with your lender. Things don't always play out. Say you see something in the evening, you like it, you want to write an offer on the spot that evening before somebody else can come in and snag this house. okay, I get it. How are you going to talk to your lender that evening? But if you're actively out seeing homes and you're seeing ones that you like and you're kind of getting to that point where you're getting that sense that you are going to be presenting an offer pretty soon, I would just call the lender, have a discussion with them, say to them, so I know you pre-approved us for this amount. We've seen several houses. Looks like we're probably going to be spending in this ballpark. What kind of timeline is realistic for us to get everything in order? What should we be asking as part of our conditions? A lot of bankers here in Manitoba, I'm told we move at a pretty quick pace compared to other provinces. It's not uncommon for the lenders to say 3 to 5 business days here is all they need. But still, it's important to have that conversation because we don't want to just be making those assumptions if your lender thinks they're going to need longer. And on the flip side of that too is if you're in a competitive situation, seeing what we can do to expedite the process also can make your offer more attractive. For instance, if a seller is looking at 2 offers at $400,000, but one can get the financing done in 1 day or 2 days and the other is asking for 2 weeks, I know which one I would personally pick, but if all else is the same, of course. But it's just one of those things that you want to have that open conversation with your lender so you know. Number 4, there are some things you're going to want to work through in advance of writing your offer. So some things I want you to start doing homework on, pondering on, kind of journaling even on if that helps with your process. The first is the numbers. So numbers go beyond just the home purchase price. But the first would be, yes, how much are you willing to pay for the home? At what level does this home become uncomfortable to pay for? Have a ceiling set before you go into those negotiations. Again, that deposit amount, also your down payment amount. Those are numbers we're going to be requesting when we are filling in that offer to purchase form. Also looking at those payments, getting a sense of what your monthly mortgage payment looks like, what the property tax monthly is, hydro, those sorts of things, just getting comfortable with those numbers and getting all the information in advance. Ideally, what we're talking about is sitting down and just knowing your numbers when you are sitting down to write that offer so that there aren't any surprises later on. Another thing to start mulling over is really, do you want any conditions in your offer or other terms? So most people do have conditions in their offer. It's not uncommon to have an unconditional offer, but I would say the majority of offers do still have conditions. So common ones are the financing condition, home inspection condition, property disclosure statement condition. Sometimes people even put subject to the sale of an existing home condition. Will you get by with it? Probably not, not that one. Or not without some battle, but we do still see it from time to time. Also, feel free to reach out to us if you would like to see a list of conditions that we have written in. It's not uncommon for people to not know the different kind of contingencies they can request within an offer, but we have assembled a whole list of them just in case you're curious to see what kinds of things you can ask for. Essentially, this is a negotiation. You can write anything you want on paper or into a contract. Whether or not the seller accepts is a whole nother thing, but there is no limit to what you can request in conditions. And we'll of course advise what is within reason and where we think you might lose the seller in the negotiation. Another thing you need to ponder, and that also catches people off guard, is possession dates. So a lot of the time people love the home, they envision themselves within the home, and then we say, okay, so when do you want it? And that kind of catches them by surprise. So that's a discussion you're going to want to have. Typical possessions in Manitoba are anywhere from 30 to 90 days right now, although I'm not seeing a lot more than 90 days because people are nervous with current interest rate increases that their rate holds will run out and then they'll have to requalify at a higher rate. But 30 to 90 seems to be the acceptable range for most buyers right now, with 45 kind of being, or 6 weeks kind of being that average amount of time that people are requesting for possession. Doesn't mean you have to do that. Just know that on the short side, lawyers prefer to have at least 2 weeks for closing, and that's tight. Like, they're not going to love us, but they can do it. And yeah, on the long side, that 90 days. And again, there's a ton of other questions that can come up along the process. So be sure to reach out if you have any questions. We're happy to advise at any point through the process, even if you're kind of in those preliminary steps, just learning about what you need to put your offer together. Just as a rough rule of thumb for anybody out there looking, you will always need a minimum of a 5% down payment in Canada to buy a house, and then set aside an additional, usually around 2% for those closing costs. But if you want more specific numbers, we also have a worksheet for that if you want us to work through that with you. And again, our home buyer guide for anybody looking for point A to point Z of the home buying process, just reach out. I can put a link in the comments section below where to register for that so that we can send you a copy. We have it both in a digital format as well as a hard copy. Some people still like us to mail those in the mail. But yeah, thanks for watching today. Again, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and RE/MAX Professionals. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to hit that like button. It really does help in determining just what to record next. And be sure to subscribe. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up in 2024.